And welcome back everybody to another slogan motion video. Today I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks from what I've learned putting, well, to be honest with you, about 8 years into playing Vi. There might be a lot to this video, might be only be a little bit, but we're just going to start and we'll see what we get out here. We're going to pick a regular jungle rune page even though I've played Vi in lane many times. It is absolutely it's absolutely viable. But yeah, we'll just load in and show you a quick example clear and then some tips and tricks with her abilities and combos using some practice dummies. Just to give you a little more background, Vi is actually the first champion I ever mained way back in season 4 or 5. So at this point, yeah, looking at like 6 or 7 years, I guess, with this champion. Still by no means the best, but might have some insights that people probably don't know about her. So let's just start with jungle smite, obviously, whatever you feel like doing. A lot of people think that Vi has a really fast clear, but in reality, her first clear is leaves a little bit to be desired. So a lot of times I'm actually not clearing Krugs early, usually leaving it up to prefer to do a 5 camp option into a scuttle. But lately, and I think most might agree, because Vi's single target damage based on her W, and then her auto attack reset on E and Q being auto attack reset on E, and then also the Q being AoE. They increase her strength of AoE camps later on, but right away, you kind of want to deal with these single target camps while you've only got W and E. Once you have your Q, W, and E, the AoE clears get a lot easier. So I like to do topside into Raptors, so you have the Q and the E for Raptors, makes it a lot easier. Oh, sorry for not fast forwarding here. I should have cut the time off on that a little bit, but I'm just going to show the opening clear that I would do, and then we'll get into the combos and tricks with the dummies.
Plan? I don't need a plan.
Alright, so we're going to be auto attacking here, just using our W passive, kiting between auto attacks as much as we can, using the space that we're given, and every third auto attack we do, if you did not know, procs Vi's W, giving us attack speed, cutting the target's armor, and reducing the timer on our passive, which we unfortunately cannot use until we have an ability. Once we have an ability, proccing an ability on an enemy target while our passive is up, we'll trigger our passive, which is just a shield that comes up. I'm going to use right there. You can see that shield. And right away, there's the first tip. You can see that Gromp attack, actually, I absorbed 2 attacks from the Gromp on the shield, which actually takes better timing than you might think. So trying to time your shield passive just as the auto attack's about to hit you so that you get the full value of the shield is one nuance I think a lot of Vi players probably don't think about what they're doing when they're clearing. Now obviously the clear is going to be just as fast if you do this you know, well or poorly, but it's going to conserve your health. So we usually queue over this wall and try to hit as many of these raptors as we can. You can hit all 6, but it is extremely difficult. If you want to get good at that, I would encourage just practicing it over and over again. But that wall hop is also kind of risky because of the innate, you know, kind of being close to mid. If mid is losing pressure at that moment, it can be unfortunate to try to get that close to the wall. But here we got 15 seconds left, and we're just going to keep clearing out. I usually try to wait until I get the armor proc on an enemy before I use E stacks. You can see there I did the same thing with the shield where I absorbed 2 auto attacks from the red, not just 1. Kind of holding my Q here just because it does have a bit of a long cooldown, but you know, actually I realized that we're kind of late on our scuttle, so in this instance we probably should have just smited that and moved, but I tend to greed my smite so that we can get 2 scuttles if we're feeling greedy, but that's sort of just a remnant of last year's play that I need to get out of my head. Easy enough to take scuttle on Vi, and the nice thing is at this point, double buffs scuttle should get us to pretty near level 4. We could always go gank and get level 4, but I'm a pretty big fan of just backing right away and getting some early AD. A lot of people don't realize how important AD is on Vi. You know, Divine Sunder, obviously being as busted as it is a very strong item, and good for early game duels and especially if you're going a heavy tank build later. It's a really good item for sustain on like a tank bruiser style Vi, but in the solo queue environment, I've always found that Vi lacks enough damage when she goes that style to where you really want to make a play on all of these AD scalings she has. It's like a Riven. everything except for the passive has a very strong AD scaling. So we want to build items like Eclipse, you know, Triforce, and well, the the first tip that I might give is sort of a secret item build. It's not amazing or anything, but it's creative, I think, and I did admittedly get this idea from Fogged for the win. If you've ever seen Fogged. Oh, I actually just screwed this clear up. I was got caught talking. I should have cleared top down here. But that's it for the clear anyway. I'll spawn some dummies now, and we'll do the test here with the combos. So a lot of people don't realize. Let me go somewhere that's easy to see this. Let me turn off the auto refresh cooldowns and everything. Let's take off the minion spawn. Okay, let's make some enemy dummies here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Q. We've already talked about the passive a little bit in the clear, but we haven't really talked about much else. So you can see here I'm spawning these enemy dummies on this line. They're all pretty much exactly in line, and because of the camera a league, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes exactly when something's in line, but we'll do my best to say that these are in line. Now we have our Q here, right? We can charge it up, it goes to a certain length, and then we can let it go. When we collide with enemy champions, we get a knockback. So we do that to the dummy here, we can see, wham, they get knocked back, right? It's a pretty weak knockback. Or is it?
I let my hands do the talking.
If we, instead of full charging the Q, we can do a short charge, right? We can just press Q and do this. So let's do a press Q. Okay, well, that knockback didn't seem that different. It seemed pretty comparable, right? Well, what a lot of people don't realize is due to the way that they've developed the mechanics on these knockbacks, you can see this happen with like Thresh E and Gnar R. The collision, or even like Alistar's W, the collision on champions is dependent on where the collision occurred in the champion hitbox, and as a result, how deep in that champion hitbox you are almost gets added to the end of the knockback. So if we put Vi like right inside of this dummy's hitbox, like as close as we can get it, and then we just do a short charge Q, we should see it go much farther. And you do. You can see just the distance on the line. It's nearly double the distance on this knockback. You know, once again, I'll show that one more time here. That's a little tough, and obviously this is difficult to do in the moment, but if you can get right inside of someone's hitbox before you Q, you get that extra knockback distance. And, you know, the implications of this are pretty big when you consider what's happening when someone's trying to tower dive you. Let's level up a few times here. Get our ult. So, you know, imagine we'll put one of these dummies under tower and we'll turn the tower shots on. Spawn enemy. Is this under tower? Okay, it is. Is this under tower? Wait, how do I? Is this under tower? Not quite. Okay, so about here. Okay, perfect. So we'll do it one more time. Right about there. Okay. So say we're trying to like hold against this dive. Well, immediately what we're gonna think is we want to just probably ult because it's point and click. But obviously, you know, in a scenario like this where maybe they're just tagging under the tower and they didn't intend to, and you really want to lock them down, or if they are hard committing, there's two ways I would approach this. I would either flash R and then walk into them and do the big Q, or you know, you can just R and hope that they're not going to react in time, but there's a chance that they walk out of it, right? And then you walk into them and do the big Q. The flash just gives them less time to react, obviously. But let's do one more. So I would do this with the flash. Full combo would look like this. Probably get kind of close, you know, pretend like we're faking back and forth, and then walk in and get the big Q to get that extra distance. And here I probably should have queued closer to the tower. We really didn't get full value on that. We just move them over a little bit. Okay, perfect. Do it one more time. So again, we're like faking back and forth, and we're not even charging Q. A lot of people expect Vi to kind of charge Q to go in like this, but no, no, no. The real utility of this skill is the knockback distance you get for just snapcasting it. So once again, we're gonna flash and then immediately ult, walk into the champion, and then Q. Now obviously, someone flashing this is gonna make it look real stupid, so it's very important to know that the enemy doesn't have a flash or a dash to counter you. Because otherwise, you know, if you know they have flash, this would look a little different, right? If you know the target has flash and they're under tower, first of all, maybe we're not going to lead with flash. Maybe because we know they have flash, we're just going to start open with ult and then flash to follow. But that can get a little messy. I really like succinct plays on Vi, just building a lot of burst and making it the pick and getting the hell out. So in an overextended position like this, I would favor, if I knew they had flash ult, and then just eat the Q. Don't go for the long Q. Take the short Q, because if you buffer that timing right, there really isn't time for them to flash out of it. But if you get greedy and try to charge it, or if you get greedy and try to issue that movement input before, it's devastating. It's nothing worse than really committing to that. Now you've used your ult and your Q, and they flashed out and they spaced out, and it's all over. The other thing is just weaving auto attacks here. Same as before, if we assume they don't have flash, we're going to want to weave auto attacks whenever we have an opportunity to. So, you know, assuming they don't have flash, we're trying to surprise them under tower. We flash R, and then we would want to auto and move and then get the big Q. And it's kind of difficult because the auto attack can be canceled by the Q, but and vice versa. But it's just a little bit, takes a little bit of timing. But that extra little bit of auto damage, like there I canceled it. And it's hard to time too, considering we get W movement speed sometimes. Or sorry, W attack speed. So once again, you know, if I'm going to R auto Q, that's going to proc my W passive faster if I weave that auto in. But if I just R Q, we're focusing on displacement over damage. So this is all going to matter on whether or not we have teams nearby, or if we think that the tower will kill them easily, right? So once again, walk into them and then Q to get that extra distance. We can see this Q. That was a short one, so there I kind of flubbed it. That was a long one. But here if I... Oh, that was actually surprisingly a long one. So this comes to my third point where I've noticed this behavior sort of inconsistently. So here I'm not near his hitbox, right? Short Q. Nowhere near the hitbox. Short Q. But if I get a little bit out of it, we can still see the hitbox. We're still in hitbox. Short Q. Okay. And I've never been able to reproduce this with short Q. But with a long Q, you can still get, you notice that the long Q does a slightly higher knockback. It's very minuscule, but you can tell it's almost like more airtime. And you get quite a bit of distance on the end of the indicators, you can see too. Like we're not even touching, and this is gonna hit for good, right? So this brings me to my secret item build. If you stuck around this long, congratulations. You are going to find out about Gale Force Vi. So we buy our Noon Quiver, let's get some gold. This is not optimal. This is weird. So before I include you on the Gale Force Vi technique, we still have to talk about Q flashing. A lot of people know you can hold Q, flash, release the Q, right? Maybe slightly less people know that you can Q, flash mid Q, and still apply the Q. Now, well, we already talked about hitboxes and why this Q knockback seems to do more when we're up in the hitbox, right? Well, this works with the flash as well. We can Q way off course. As long as we flash into the center of their hitbox, they get launched extra far. But if we Q and we flash kind of off, like it's a lazy flash, okay, that was, I think there might have been some terrain weirdness happening there. Let's try this one more time. Maybe I've gotten too good at it. Let's try to flash like, there, that one was kind of shitty, but I feel like I'm not giving a good accurate representation of this. That one was better. Yeah, these knockbacks are a little less, yeah, these are short knockbacks. Now, so obviously that's just telling you right now that it's really good to get a Q flash, to get it Q flashing on a target to get that extra knockback. But now let's see how that would look under a tower dive scenario where maybe we don't have ult, right? Sorry, it's the old-fashioned way of moving these dummies. So say we really want to get this guy under tower, or maybe we don't want to use ult. We want to do something flashy with Q and flash, and then ult to keep him there. Well, there's two ways we can approach this. One, we can charge our Q out and kind of juke him by going like off to the side and then flashing, but you can see we kind of knocked him in the wrong direction there, right? It was where we were flying in our Q at that time that directed the flash direction, right? So you kind of think to yourself, well, if I'm in front of the enemy, how am I going to get them to go backwards? How am I going to get them to come toward me, right? If you fly at the enemy, and you flash, this is very difficult, I'm gonna have to try this once or twice, I haven't practiced this in a minute, but if you flash behind them before your Q hits, you'll have to forgive me. I've actually found this easier to do with short Qs. There it is. But that was not quite perfect. There we go. You can really, and there was the long Q. That was the long, I flashed right into the hitbox, right? It's almost instant input. It's like Q into flash almost immediately. See, that one I screwed up. That one I screwed up. It's so much harder than it seems. You can make yourself look like a fool doing this, right? There, that was alright. Could have been better. I think I'm waiting too long to flash. Yeah, there it was. You have to almost, like, the flash has to almost be instant, like a millisecond after the Q. And you have to have it, obviously, your cursor needs to be in the right place. One more time, and then I'll show you the Gale Force tech. Okay, whatever. You saw it once or twice. It's doable. It's just very, very difficult. Either way. The Gale Force tech, secret Gale Force tech. Alright, so we've noticed that Vi's Q behaves a little strangely at the end of its hitbox. Like I said, charge it out long, and even though like we're a ways away, this should not connect, but it still does, right? Now let's try to see the length on this that's actually true, right? Maybe about here? Like there, that missed, right? So what we were standing about here. Right on that line, and this is going to connect. Yep. We stand maybe about here. This probably won't. So, okay. So we're standing about here. Now, if we have this Q that is very clearly not going to connect, but we Gale Force in the middle of the dash. I got it on the first try. Let's fucking go. You actually pull the enemy back towards you because your Q collision hitbox seems to connect, but for some reason, the transfer in position that the Gale Force gives you, like, I don't know what it does. I don't have Riot's code, but all I know is it completely buggers the knockback, so it thinks that you're behind them. So we get that pullback effect as though we had flashed, but Gale Force is only on a 90-second cooldown, or sorry, 110 seconds. But Vi's going to be building a lot of cooldown reduction anyway. This is the secret tech of Gale Force Vi. I really, yeah, of course, it's not easy to do. You'll make yourself look kind of silly doing it, but there, got it again. And I found it's easier to do with the long Q. I'm getting really good at this. Boom. It's not even that hard to do. Obviously on a moving target it gets a lot trickier because you have to miss, essentially. If your Q gets too close, you have to time it perfectly. Like if I'm like here, there, that was a fail. If I go like this, and there, that time I just Gale Force and didn't connect, right? It's a very tight timing when you're close for some reason, but I think it's something about the way the end of the hitbox works when it's fully extended that makes it a little easier to pull off, but obviously there I screwed it up. There we go. Is Gale Force the best item to build on Vi? No. But if you like crit and you build low enough elo that you just want to get all the move speed and run around like a crazy person, giving Vi, who's already mobile as hell, another dash with a flash and an ability to like basically thresh pull someone under tower, I think is highly underrated. And then lastly, I'm pretty sure you can do it with a short Q, but I've not gotten good at it at all. It's quite difficult to do with short Q. Let me see if I can do it. I almost feel like the timing isn't there, like it's almost impossible, but I think it is, in theory, possible. I've just yet to really pull it off because you have to have your cursor already moving from your target position to where you need a Gale Force backwards within like a millisecond of it happening. But when you do the long Q, you have more physical reaction time. And then one thing I haven't checked too much of, but if I long Q, flash in the wrong spot, and then Gale Force. Okay, that was a little tricky, but let's try it one more time. You would have to flash. Yeah, I think with the flash, it's just too fast, because when you flash, you get like a single frame of knockback. Right, we get the knockback frame, but then there's no time to Gale Force. And then I think mid Gale Force, you also can't flash. Don't miss that one. It's important to not. You almost have to wait for it to connect. It's like the frame that you're supposed to get the knockback. You have to press Gale Force. See, there was too late. There was too early. Obviously, not that strong, and I'm not even sure if this is intended, but it's in the game. I did it on my first try earlier. Now I'm screwing it up over and over again. As soon as I feel like the angles really matter. I just keep going too early, and there's too late. There, my cursor wasn't in the right place. See, it is quite tricky, which is why I don't. This is like the last tip I give. There it is. It's like it only works when you're on like the longest charge. Gives you more time to react, and yeah, look, I'm able to do it 4 times in a row. I can pull this guy there with the extra kind of distance. For whatever reason, it doesn't work unless you're using the very end of the hitbox. And if I don't fully charge it, it doesn't seem to want to work. You know, it's. I don't know what it is about that little like hitbox extension on the full charge, but whatever it is. Oh, there, of course, there I messed it up, but there's a little late. Well, you get my point. I've shown it plenty of times. Other than those tips, final tips I give on Vi always is just standing in the proper place to make sure you get your E-cone passive on as much people as you can. I think a lot of people forget how much utility you can get by getting that damage. One of the perfect examples of this I always think of is not only for Dragon and Baron Steels, because there's a lot of units in the river you can click on, including plants like blasting cones, and I guess that wouldn't be ideal because you'd get blown away, but Scryer's blooms and honeydew or whatever. But this, how many times have you started a gank, you get the mid laner low, and they flee under tower, and you're like, well, what am I going to do? You could maybe Q, but you're not going to get in range. But you can Q to here, and then auto the tower, and use your E to cone behind the tower. Look at this cone range. It's a lot bigger than people expect it to be, and I've gotten many kills by getting someone quite low. They like LeBlanc jump back, and then I just follow up, auto, or maybe my Q's down because from the gank, so I'll just go flash, auto, and then get the kill, and then hopefully the passive keeps me alive. I think that's about it for tips on Vi. If I think of anything else, I'll upload another video later, but for now, this has been Slogan Motion with tips and tricks on Jungle Vi Clear and combos and abilities. Hope you've enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe.